Hi, everyone. So I wanted to do this presentation today to talk a little bit about some of the more hands-on exercises I've been doing in my psychology courses. I've been teaching psychology courses at Queens College for about 10 years now. And when I first started teaching, I very quickly learned if I talk the entire time, students will fall asleep. And so I've been gradually trying to make my courses as hands-on as possible, and that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. So when I first started doing exercises in my class with students, I had them work in groups to do things like complete worksheets. They had to answer questions related to something we were talking about in class, which worked out okay, but it was kind of just another way to assess their knowledge in not an exam, but the similar idea to an exam where, okay, we talked about this concept, now work in a group and answer these questions. It got students talking and they enjoyed it, but I still felt like something was missing from the interactive component in the class. And so I started to create or think about ways to incorporate more hands-on exercises in my classes where students can actually practice some of the things that we're talking about. And so instead of just reiterating the lecture content or answering questions to kind of make sure they're paying attention, I was thinking, all right, I'm teaching these classes that are largely about learning and changing behavior or behavior modification. So how can I set up exercises or incorporate exercises where students actually do these techniques that we're talking about, right? And so the idea behind these hands-on exercises is that students have the opportunity to translate what they're learning about into practice. Often they learn clinical skills that could be relevant in different clinical kind of careers and jobs. And they get to work in groups, which they find really fun, usually with one student acting as the teacher and the other student role-playing as the learner or participant. And then they switch roles to take turns and they have fun with that. So one of the exercises I wanted to discuss today a little bit, and we do a number of these, this is just one way that I've incorporated an exercise in the classroom, is a shaping exercise. So in psychology, shaping is this teaching technique that's usually used in animal training, where you reinforce small steps to an end goal behavior. And at other universities, they do pretty cool things like, that's a picture of rats playing basketball, because at other universities, they have undergraduate students actually shape and teach rats to play basketball, which is really cool. I wish we could do that here, but we don't have rats. So we don't have rats, but we do, but I can't catch them. So I was thinking, okay, how can I do something similar with just having undergraduate students? And I actually found in the published research, Epting and Green 2011 discusses a way to do this shaping kind of exercise with just graduate students, where you basically give them materials and then they have to shape each other's behavior. So I essentially do that with students in my class. And in animal training, they usually use clickers. Has anyone seen that when they train animals? Because the clicker is paired with food. And so the animal likes the click sound, and it means they're like doing the right thing or on the right track. So what I do is I give students a bunch of kind of random materials, things that are cheap, honestly. You can use anything. And they have to pick some random behavior that they're going to shape the other student to do. And they can't communicate, they can only click, just like animal training, similar to how they would train a rat to play basketball. So I have Yvette here, who's actually taken this similar kind of course at Queens College, who's going to help me demonstrate. So here's like if I was the teacher in the group and I was shaping Yvette to make a pyramid with the cups. Okay, and she made the pyramid. It doesn't It doesn't go that way in the classroom because Yvette knew what I wanted her to do, right? But in the classroom, students are like trying all these things. The other students trying to shape these small steps. And it's a really good learning exercise in this kind of powerful shaping technique. And it gives students an opportunity to practice it without having to do it with animals, right? Or having to use animal subjects. And students have a lot of fun with this. So I've had students do really fun things. Like my favorite is one group asked another student to take a cup, all of the cubes, put it on their head, and then stir on their head. And that took like 20 or so minutes to shape that behavior. But everyone was laughing. It was like, it's a fun exercise for students to do. And just from doing this in the class, I could tell students enjoyed it. They were interacting with each other. They can really see the shaping technique or the teaching technique play out in real time. And I also, just anecdotally, I got really interesting emails from students that, oh, I went home and I shaped my rabbit to do this cool trick, right? Or my favorite was, I had a student email me, I shaped a squirrel at Queens College to go into my hand and eat peanuts and had the picture attached. And I wrote back, that's wonderful. I'm glad that you enjoyed shaping so much, but please don't do that because the squirrel could bite you or something, right? So just be careful. But they love getting the hands-on practice. So this semester, I also had the fortunate experience of teaching a graduate level course. That's the course that Yvette's in. And the students in that graduate course needed a research project to do. So I thought, well, it would be kind of interesting to look at some of these hands-on exercises and actually evaluate and see if students really do enjoy doing them, or I'm just kind of like making them do these exercises in class, or do they actually like them? Do they get anything out of it? Do they think that they're meaningful? So that's the project that I did with my graduate class. This was a project we did this semester. We did half of the classes only lecture. So basically I'm talking the whole time. I might throw some videos in, but it's traditional kind of lecture. And then half of the classes we did hands-on exercises. So the shaping exercise was one, but there were other kind of similar things that we did throughout the other classes. Really hands-on, role-playing, teacher-learner kinds of exercises. And after each class, I asked students to complete this really quick survey where they just had to rate the class. Did they like the class's format? Did they enjoy it? Do they feel confident in what they learned in the class to maybe apply this in a clinical or work setting? Did they think the format of the class was helpful in learning? And then at the end, I just asked an open-ended question about what was their favorite part of the class. And they did this survey after each class. So here's the data for students scoring how much they enjoyed the class. The blue circle line is when I did the hands-on exercises, and then the square orange line is just me lecturing. A rating of 5 is like the highest, meaning they liked it the most, like that's the highest that they could rate it. So on average, they rated both classes pretty high, probably because they didn't want to hurt my feelings. So they rated lecture only pretty high and hands-on exercises high, but across the board consistently, they're enjoying the hands-on exercises more if you're comparing the two. So anytime we incorporated a hands-on exercise, they liked that class more than just basically me lecturing most of the time. Then I also wondered, well, that's nice that they enjoyed it, but does it impact something like quiz grades? Because they also had quizzes after each topic. And it was a slight difference again, but overall, they scored better on quizzes that had the hands-on exercises attached for that topic. So potentially doing these hands-on exercises is maybe also helping with their performance on quizzes, even though it's just a small kind of difference here. And then Yvette's going to talk about their favorite part of the class.
So by the end of the study, at the end of the 10 classes, we asked students how much they agreed with the following statement. I believe that learning clinical skills, such as those that we worked on in the lab exercises, such as how to record data, how to shape behaviors, and how to reinforce behaviors, etc., is important for undergraduate students interested in psychology/behavior analysis. All of the students agreed or strongly agreed. So when we asked what was the favorite part of their class, the majority of students stated that it was the hands-on exercises as well as the videos and relatable examples. I find that this is a very important way on how to develop and practice skills taught in class. As an undergraduate student myself, I found that when professors implemented these types of practices in their own classes, it made me more eager to come to class and participate.
Okay, so here I just put a few resources. I'm sorry, they're mainly psychology resources just because that's what I'm familiar with, so I apologize if this isn't applicable to many of you. But there's a lot of great, interesting ideas out there for ways to incorporate hands-on material or activities in classes that I wasn't aware about. And so the resources are out there. There's the APA has some really interesting ways to incorporate activities. One of my favorite ones that I saw was if you're teaching about neuroscience and neuronal communication, they suggest an in-class activity where students role play being parts of the neuron in the brain. So they like put on a show where one student's the sending neuron, one's the receiving neuron. They act out sending the message. It's just such a cool way to get students involved in practicing something that you would think, well, how would you even get students involved in practicing neuronal communication? Well, there's ways to do it. So it's really, really cool kinds of examples there. And then I just wanted to mention some other ways that I've tried to make my class more fun or interactive. So students really like the hands-on exercises that we do, but probably up there with their other favorite things that we do is we play Jeopardy to prepare for exams. Where, there's free interactive templates online. You can create your own Jeopardy game. I have them work in groups. They get really competitive with each other, and they have so much fun preparing for the exam that way. So that's like just a fun way I have them prepare for exams. And then there's also a bunch of open educational resources where if you're not in the area of psychology, maybe you're in chemistry, biology, people publish to these open resources cool lab manual examples, cool ways to get classes a little bit more interactive. So yeah, just what I'm planning to work on over the summer is creating an open educational resource of these activities I've been doing. So other instructors at other universities or here at Queens College can maybe incorporate some of this into their classroom. And that's kind of my plan, and I'm working with the library scholarship that Leila handed the flyer out about to do so. So that's it, and I'll take any questions. Thank you all.
Okay. On the chart that you have that shows like the interest from the different classes, and this is like, I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting that they all rated session 5 so high, and I was wondering if you remember what you did that day.
What did we do session 5?
They all thought session 5, the lecture was like, I just thought the dip was interesting. Like I was wondering if you could explain that pattern, or if you like you said, they're just rating high. But the class sessions, like 2 of them were, although I guess now that I'm looking at it, 3 of them are at the same level.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
It must have been.
I think one of them was the shaping exercise. But I think one of them might be, I have them do an exercise where they practice reinforcing each other on different schedules of reinforcement.
That's really interesting.
And they give each other stickers, so maybe the stickers was enjoyable.
Yeah, thank you.
The stickers are like the reinforcement they practice, so that could be something they enjoyed. I'm trying to think exactly. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Okay, yes. I'm Chris Williams. I'm one of the co-directors of first year writing at Queens College. Thank you so much, Professor, for sharing. I think it's really great. One thing I wanted to ask about is, this is reminding me of something that I've been looking at, which is the idea that play in the classroom is something that happens a lot at the lower levels of education, and it just kind of decreases wrong way as we go up to higher education, which is unfortunate. And I really thought it was really awesome how you introduced elements of play into these sessions through these sort of like activities. The question I had, two questions. One question was firstly, do you also sort of like see any opportunity or currently use this sort of like hands-on type of work, but in an assignment or project way? And if not, is there possibility to see how that might be another way to sort of help them apply that same sort of like instructional sort of strategy or mode, or to something that actually now is how they are creating knowledge or reproducing knowledge that they've actually done in the class and in the lab?
That's a great question. So like outside of the classroom, their main paper is they have to apply the principles of learning and behavior change during class to come up with an intervention to change their own behavior. And they have to take data on it and think about, creating a research project, trying to change their own behavior and see if it works, basically. So that's one way I try and incorporate, even outside of the classroom, some of a more hands-on way that they can implement things that they're learning about. But it's really interesting that you mentioned that we seem to lose this interactive component as we move up the kind of to higher education. And it's interesting you mentioned this because even the resources here that I found, those are technically for high school classes. And I listed them because they're great, and why should they only be for high school classes, right? And so it's true, there seems to be an emphasis in high school about making education more interactive and fun in many ways. And there's no reason it shouldn't continue into undergraduate study.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is great. It sounds really fun.
Thank you.
I'm wondering how you balance the extra time it takes during the class to do this with the number of things that you want to cover in a semester.
That's a great question. Some of these exercises take, like the shaping exercise is maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and it's an almost 3-hour course. So in this specific course, because it's an advanced experimental course, it works really well. But there are really quick ways to incorporate these things into bigger psychology lectures, right? I could give you a very quick demonstration if everyone can raise their hand right now, just really quickly. So an intro psych, that's something that professors can have students do to demonstrate obedience. Psychology, there's very quick kind of demonstrations that way. Why did you raise your hand, right? Just because I told you, because I'm an authority figure, and then it sets the stage for Milgram's obedience studies. And so some of these fun interactive ways can be quick, but in my advanced experimental course we have time, so they do tend to be a little longer.